You hear that word all the time, right? Cinematic. It's the holy grail for smartphone video. Well, today we're putting two absolute titans in the ring, the iPhone 17 Pro Max and the Galaxy S25 Ultra, to find out if the camera you carry around in your pocket could actually pull off a Hollywood-level look. But let's just ask the big question right up front, shall we? Can a phone, with all its software magic and computational wizardry, really, truly fake the look and feel of a professional camera? Is cinematic mode just a super clever gimmick, or is this the real deal? To figure that out, we've got to start with the hardware.
All right, Section 1, the Cinematic Challenge. Let's pop the hood and see what kind of firepower these phones are actually bringing to the fight.
Okay, so right away, we're looking at two totally different ways of thinking. The iPhone's got a 48-megapixel camera, sure, but its real secret weapon is LiDAR. That's a fancy sensor that basically maps out a room by bouncing light off things. It's absolutely crucial for faking a believable background blur. The Galaxy, on the other hand, just goes for brute force, a massive 200-megapixel sensor, but it doesn't have that dedicated depth sensor. So two very different strategies trying to get to the exact same place. Section 2. Head-to-head field tests. You know, specs on a piece of paper are one thing, but how do these things actually hold up out in the real world? This is where the fun starts. First up, round 1, the motion test. Can these phones keep that cinematic illusion going when things start moving? This is a big one, because this is usually where all that digital trickery starts to, well, fall apart. And the results are pretty fascinating. The iPhone's footage, it's definitely more stable, and that background blur, the bokeh, it just feels more authentic, more like a real lens. But the Galaxy does this really clever thing where it automatically dims the exposure as the subject gets closer, and it creates this really moody, stylized vibe. So you can see the split already. Apple is chasing realism, Samsung is chasing a look. Next up, round 2, the dynamic range test. We're talking about a scene with some seriously extreme lighting, super bright spots, and really deep, dark shadows. This is a classic torture test for any camera, never mind a phone. And wow, this really shows off their different personalities. I mean, both phones handle this tough lighting incredibly well, let's be clear. But the iPhone cranks up the contrast, giving you this really dramatic, shadowy image. The Galaxy goes for something more balanced, more natural. But this is also where you start to see the cracks in the simulation. If you look real close at the edges, you'll see tiny mistakes, like a little gap between an arm and a body that the software just forgot to blur. It's a little reminder that this is all in effect. Okay, now for round 3, the focus pull. You've seen this a million times in movies. It's when the focus shifts smoothly from something in the background to something in the foreground. It's a classic storytelling tool. Get it right, it looks totally pro. Get it wrong, and it just looks kind of cheap. And on this one, the verdict is pretty clear. The source material puts it perfectly. The focus shift is definitely smoother on the iPhone, and it does a better job of looking like a real camera. That little bit of smoothness, that subtlety, it makes all the difference in selling the illusion. All right, time for our final field test. Round 4, the low light duel. This is the ultimate challenge, right? It's where those tiny sensors and all that software processing get pushed to their absolute breaking point. I just love this line from the source material because it perfectly sets up a pretty big surprise. Just when you think the iPhone's got this thing in the bag, the tables completely turn. So here's the breakdown. The iPhone's blur, yeah, it's technically a bit cleaner, but the Galaxy's image has these richer colors and deeper shadows that just feel more like a movie. But here's the real kicker. In one scene that was super dark, the iPhone just gave up. It flat out refused to even apply the blur effect. The Galaxy, though, it went for it. It accepted that there would be some digital noise, but it got the shot. That is a huge difference in approach. So, Section 3, the professional reality check. Look, both of these phones are obviously incredible, but everything we've seen so far has been a simulation. How does it all stack up against the real thing? So we're bringing in the big guns, a Lumix S5 Mark II. This is a professional-grade mirrorless camera. Now we're about to see what cinematic really looks like. And you know what? It's really not a fair fight. The Lumix has a sensor that is way, way bigger, and it relies on actual physics, not software tricks. That means its blurry background is natural. Its edge detection is perfect. There are no weird digital artifacts. It's not faking it, it's just doing it. This neon banana test is brutal, and it just lays it all bare. Look at how the phones struggle. The iPhone gets the center sharp, but the blur effect inside the banana itself is all weird and flickery. The Galaxy, it completely misses the focus. And then you see the Lumix. Flawless, perfectly sharp with a beautiful natural background. That right there is the difference between software and physics. Okay, section 4, power in the edit. Because let's be honest, shooting the video is only half the battle. So much of that cinematic feel comes from what you do afterwards. So what kind of tools do these phones give you after you've stopped recording? This part is actually pretty mind-blowing. Both phones have these powerful editors built right in. You can go back into a clip you've already shot and change the focus point or adjust how blurry the background is. That's incredible. But the Galaxy has this one awesome trick up its sleeve called speed ramping, where you can slow down and then speed up different parts of the same clip. That's a serious tool for adding drama, and it's just right there on the phone.
So after all the tests, all the comparisons, the reality checks, what's the bottom line? It's time for the final verdict. Let's run down the iPhone's wins. When it came to delivering a truly realistic look, it consistently nailed it. The bokeh was just more pleasing, the focus pulls were way smoother, the footage was more stable, and its edge detection, while not perfect, was just a little more precise than the competition.
But don't count the Galaxy S25 Ultra out. It landed some powerful jabs of its own. It often created a more stylized, movie-like exposure. Its colors in low light were richer, and it was willing to take a shot in the dark when the iPhone just gave up. Plus, that slow-motion editing tool is a real game changer. So after all of that, who gets the crown? We're going to give this slight edge to the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Why? Well, its dedication to a realistic and consistent blur makes it a slightly better simulation of a professional camera. But seriously, make no mistake, the gap between these two is razor thin, and they can both do things that were basically science fiction a few years ago.
And that really brings us to the most important question, and this one isn't for me to answer, it's for you. We've seen what these phones can do. We've seen where they fall short compared to a pro camera. So the question is, has smartphone video finally reached the point where it's good enough for your ideas, for your stories? That's really something to think about.